Hi loves, welcome back to my channel, and the topic of today is top 10 sexual fantasies that women absolutely want to try or they have in them, but these fantasies are sort of risky, so it is not something that a lot of people are proud to share. So I am going to help them to share it to you. Doesn't mean that every woman have this fantasy, but they are more like common fantasies that women have and they want to explore, but because it's tabooish, it's not something they would want to discuss with their significant other or discuss with anyone. Because I don't want to be talking too long, I'm going to divide this video into 10. So I'm going to briefly share each point in every video that you see. So the series we are on now is top 10 fantasies that women absolutely love or want to try, but they won't admit. Fantasy is fantasy in its own right. In any aspect, we have fantasies. Sometimes we have sexual fantasies, sometimes we just have worldly fantasies, vanity fantasies. That's why there are people called collectors, or there are people that are collectors in different aspects. Like some people have this fantasy of having this kind of hairstyle that has never existed, and after fantasizing on it, if they can afford it, they will make it happen. It may be a kind of hairstyle or hair that can be worn outside like a regular hairstyle, and just because it's something they just want to have or feel, they collect it and they keep it with them. They have fulfilled that fantasy they have, but they just keep looking at it and admiring it daily. It's something they add value to, but in other sense, you can't really use it to do anything. It's just, so you're a collector, you just collected it. It's just like people that want to collect artworks from notable people, or they want to have this unique kind of artwork. So it can be associated or linked with fantasy, sort of. So trying to explain fantasy in a layman language, having fantasy is when you have something in mind that you wish. It's more like a wish that you want to come true, and it's a wish that you can actually make come true. Now, my life fantasy can be that I want to be traveling to different countries every month. Now, some people, their fantasy is to travel around the world. It can be a goal, it can be something they want to achieve, it can be a fantasy depending on how they want it. Now, sex fantasy is when you have this particular sex act embedded in your head that you really wish to try, and you want to feel the excitement, or you want to know what it feels like or how it will feel like for you to actually practice that. So it becomes more like a fantasy. So whenever you've done that, you have fulfilled that fantasy, you can no longer say, okay, this is my fantasy. Now, fantasy is more like a goal or dream that you want to achieve, but you haven't done it. Right? So now sex fantasy can be a sexual act that you want to practice or you want to explore. That's how fantasy can be. Now, one of the fantasies that women have that they wouldn't want to share, or some of them may be bold enough to share, it depends on how understanding or how you communicate with your partner, how open your relationship is, or how open your individual persons that are a couple that are in a relationship, how they are. And one of those things are being dominated. It's not something that, okay, I love doing this, I want to be doing this. It's something that you want to experience. So some women, their fantasy is being dominated, and you may think, oh, being dominated, that's literally what we do almost every time we have sex with them. So most women have experienced it. It is not the usual you being on top of a woman and you're trusting. Being dominated is sort of different, that the man is in charge. The woman wants to be like the slave and move or work according to the command of the man. So being dominated can involve BDSM, where her hands can be tied. It could also be where you're commanding her and telling her what to do this with a commanding tone, not in a romantic manner. So some women have this as their fantasy. They want to explore and experience BDSM. They want to explore and experience being tied up. They want to explore and experience being dominated, being pinned down on the bed, being choked. This is one sex fantasy that a lot of women have, but they may not be open enough to share with their partner because they don't know how you react to it. Some men may find it weird when you tell them, I want you to dominate me, because when you tell them, I want you to dominate me, they may think it is just the usual dominance, like them being on top, doing all the thrusting, but it's far from that. Dominating is somehow sort of arousing to a lot of women. Dominating can actually include, I don't want to mention it. It starts with R and there's P in it. It ends with E. Okay. Domination can also involve being forced into doing the act of knacking. But yeah, this kind of domination is really different from what it should be in real life. Like, it is in their head, they want to experience it, but in reality, in real life, it is far from what they actually want. Like, it is not something they would want to tell a man to do. It is something that when a man is actually scared of practicing with the woman because he is scared of being in trouble. So the woman, on the other hand, is scared to discuss such things with you because they don't know how you react to it, because it is a weird way of having sex. Imagine wanting to have sex when the person is forced. It involves forced, involves pain, it involves pinning down, it involves flogging, it involves tying of hands, it involves commanding, kneel down, move this way, do this, with a commanding tone, like treating the person like a slave. In reality, it is not actually what anyone would want. In reality, it is not something one would want to enjoy. But in their head, they want to experience it.